Now we still celebrate conventions here, the smaller ones. The more modern ones are too large and they don't fit there. But Anime Week or Comic-Con or Beer Fest or anything like that is going to be celebrated here. So we still use the same buildings that were built back in 29. Even these columned areas here, they were built as the office space for the World Trade Fair. World Mobile Congress. David, el World Mobile Congress is aquí, pues en el otro? In the big one, in front of the Renaissance Fira. Okay. You know the Renaissance Fira Hotel where you're going later? Okay, that in front of you is where we have the new fairgrounds. Oh, that's for the massive modern fairs we have today. The international events today are 3 times larger than they used to be. So this is too small for the modern ones. But we built that new one, and that's what they built your hotel too.
Oh, I saw that happen.
What happened? What happened?
He backed into the concrete barrier, and he busted out part of his
boo-boo.
Yeah, he had boo-boo. Boo-boo.
Exactly. Oops.
Not good.
It's not as bad as it looks. He looks like he's had worse, though.
Yeah, he does.
I've done that once or twice.
He didn't even stop to look. Okay, we're entering the convention area now. And this is the main entrance into Montjuic. See, Fira means fair. And of course, it's not going to be cow fair. It's just the World Trade Fair. That's what they all are. And many medical conventions taking place on the right-hand side.
What is this?
This is a bachelorette party.
Ah, cool.
Yeah, these are not real football, whatever you call them. What do you call them? Yeah, that's a bachelorette.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, that's Barcelona.
I didn't know if we were catching Colin or if that was something else, so.
Right now there's something here. I don't know what it is taking place. It says...
Yeah.
Oh, look! Gastronomical Week here on the left. Gastronomical Week. You might want to try different flavors of whatever they're creating. So if you're coming to see the water show today, and I really, really hope you do, see the escalator on the left and the right-hand side? Take the escalator, get on the bridge, cross the square, and go beyond the square where there's steps. Sit on the steps. Try not to stand around the water fountain because there's going to be a lot of people. And you know what a lot of people means, right?
Pickpockets.
That's right. Nobody's listening to the guy.
Oh, up here is where it's going to be.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay.
That's right. People. Okay, after all.
Gotta work.
I went all the way to Bellagio just so I could compare. And you know what? You can't compare. They're totally different. Bellagio's is more like a music note, and then has 2 little circles, one on each side. They do a lovely show for 2 songs. This one's an hour long. And they've completely updated it. Because of the long period of drought we've had, they've had 3 years to clean it up and update it. So it's not all LEDs, for example. There's none of the old light bulbs. And that's where that was the Spanish Pavilion in 1929. That's where we had the opening and closing ceremonies. Because that was Spain, Spanish Pavilion. Look to your right now. This appeared one night. We came by one afternoon like today. There was nothing there. The following day, there it was. Somebody worked really hard all night. Aliens. And this is a textile mill turned into that museum I told you had a lovely festival for kids, music concerts for children. This is Caixa Forum. They don't have a collection of their own at all, but they have a very good quality department, so whatever they show here is usually very good. Very, very good. And this was, yeah, a textile mill. 1912 it was finished. Now on the left-hand side, you're going to see a fence made of wood and different colors. That's the fence that goes around the Spanish village, where we have those 80 buildings from around Spain, where you can see what the architecture of Spain looks like. So there it is, behind these walls. That's that gate. Yeah, there's very interesting. I mean, if you haven't been to Spain, you can see different things. For example, in the Andalusian square, the Andalusian architecture, they also have a flamenco venue, for example. A little trick, if you do think you're going to come sometime and you don't want to pay the ticket, book a table at one of the restaurants and you don't pay. This is the main entrance. It's the Spanish Church. Now they're having Halloween festivities.
How many is this time?
This is
okay.
Manac, David? Vale.
We've done,
Sí, por favor.
this will be our fourth.
This is only our second. We got a lot of work to do. We can jump with you guys.
Hi first.
We haven't done a transition.
I haven't heard that we have anybody from New York on board, but if you've been to New York recently, have you seen Ground Zero, the Oculus?
Yeah.
The white building? Okay, the same architect that that communication tower there.
Are you on signal?
There you are. Calatrava. Calatrava. So Barcelona had to do 2 communication towers. That one here to pick up the images from the competitions themselves and send the images to the one on the mountain on top. And that one from the world to the world. You know, you can imagine this mountain is 600 feet high. That mountain is 1,500. Yeah, it was going to be impossible. So there's the other communication tower. That's by Norman Foster. Both of them are good architects. And that's the Spanish Blue. Over there on the other side. So there's a lot of things to do on Montjuic. That's basically what I'm trying to say. Museum-wise, there's 6. One is the most important one, the one we're going to see now. But have you ever heard of John Miro? Anybody? Anybody, please? Somebody say yes. John Miro is just as good as Dali, but because he never lived in the free world, nobody knows him, except people that are specialized in art. And then yes, those people, yes. Only those.
What are they called? I don't know. That's pretty wild.
Wow. Oh, you never know what you're going to see here, that's for sure. For a little 10-15 minute view of the city from the palace. Of 1992. And then next to that we have the swimming pools coming up right now on our right hand side, which are now municipal public swimming pools. And of course coming up is the Olympic Stadium. There's going to be a concert, see? Look at all these young people sitting here. The small stadium for 20,000 people that we use for the gymnastics is what is now used for all the rock and pop concerts in Barcelona. And very often when these young people love whoever's coming, they want to be the first ones in.
Is it Gaga?
Could be. David? Last Tuesday he said, Lady Gaga.
Oh, okay.
It's gone. We have the screen here. We should find out here. Who is it?
No, that's February 2026.
Okay, that's February. That's too far away. And this is the Olympic Stadium. This is where we had the opening and closing ceremonies. This is where we lit the torch with an arrow.
Oh, yes.
You remember that moment?
Yes.
Yeah. It was
I remember that one.
very simple and, yeah, at the same time it was impacting. Especially after the big show that they put on of Hercules having found Barcelona and the ships and the waves, and then we had a simple guy in a wheelchair coming in, standing up in the middle of the field, lighting his arrow and sending it flying up into the skies, and as it describes a parabola, it came down and lit the torch. So this is the torch. it let go gas way ahead of time, so that there would be no chance of making a mistake. So there you are. That's the Olympic Stadium. And here's the Olympic Museum, which we've dedicated to the president of the Olympic Committee. Because thanks to him we had the games. I mean, he fought for us very hard, for years, just to make sure we would get those games. We were nowhere near being ready for that amount of visitors. We had just come out of a dictatorship. We had just had, our first democratic elections, and that was '86. We were told we'd be hosting those games. So it was very significant and very important. The city of Barcelona changed in a few years. It modernized, it upgraded, it cleaned itself, it developed areas that had never been developed before. So it did change the city completely, I might add, completely. It was the best thing that could happen to the city. To have the Olympic Games in 1986, celebrate them in '92, and those 6 years, use them to change the city. Because we didn't have to build a lot of sports facilities. Practically everything we needed was built. We've been celebrating athletic competitions on Montjuic since the 50s, so we had everything. I'm going to show you now the diving area. The diving area was really cool because it was very vertical where people sat, and the 2 pools are down below. And when you see the diving boards on top, you can't believe that there's pools down below, because by the height where we are, it looks like you're on top of Barcelona. It seems incredible. There could be divers there. This is the John Miro Museum I was telling you about. This is for John Miro. Now the diving area has become a bar and a restaurant. Of course, we repurpose everything, folks. We never let anything go without use.
Is it a dive bar?
It's called Dives. How did you know? It's called Dives. Yeah, it is.
Bouncers the water.
Okay, here, there's a cable car that brings you to this point from the city down below, and then there's the ramp to get on the gondola that takes you to the military fortress on top, called Castle of Montjuic. So if you were talking about this gondola, this only goes up to the highest point over the mountain. It's not the one that goes over the port. Look, folks. Here, on the left, is Dives. And now look at the view.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
That's the city, and there's the diving. There's the diving.
Oh my gosh.
And this is, believe it or not, Sagrada Familia in 1992.
Oh man.
It's looking a little low.
Oh my goodness.
There's the city. Look, look. We've got the tables and the chairs and the city. So that is a nice place for a nightcap. Here's another nice view of the city, better than the other one, but here we're not allowed to stop. There's a lot of limitations for buses, and we may be small, but we're still a bus. Just a little bit of the same, but just a bigger view, a larger view. See? Now that's the whole city.
What does that building look like? A bullet?
It is. It's like a bullet building, isn't it? It's offices. It's all offices. It used to be the water company offices, but then an American hotel chain said we'd like to buy the building. It would make a great hotel. And the water company said, sure, go ahead. We're asking for this much. And the hotel said, yeah, we'll buy it. Okay. They paid a down payment. And in the meantime, the water company built their new building in the industrial area. Well, you know what? When it was time to move in and pay the rest of the money, the city hall moved in and said, nope, we're not going to allow it. There's too many hotels in this area already. Not enough office. And so they decided they would take care of filling it up, and now they're filling it up since then. Yeah, there's the ship. There's the many ships.
On which one? The Regent?
No, I think it's a Ritz.
Oh, Ritz Carlton.
So many.
Oh, that blue one?
Yeah.
Ah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's a sailboat.
Look at the nice little yachts over there. About 1 o'clock.
We'll take one to go.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's huge.
Oh, there's the W Hotel.
There's the W Hotel, exactly. That's the W. Yes, there is. The Ferris wheel is in the port. It's a little like the one they have in London. It's more or less the same idea.
Yeah.
Have you ever been done to London?
I have many times. You know, the small kids love it. It's always been somebody.
Oh,
okay.
down here.
Most kids understand physics.
No.
That is in young kids.
We just walked around.
Pero nada, cuanto antes mejor. Faltan 20 minutos para las 14. Vete por donde sea más rápido.
I'm back in Congo.
Look, there's Columbus, folks. Look at Columbus Monument, and that's right at the beginning of the Ramblas. So that should serve as a reference point of where the Ramblas are, and where the Ramblas begin. And then you can cross over Columbus and walk over to that area. See on the right-hand side?
Yeah.
That area in the middle of the marina, that's called Mare Magnum. There's the aquarium of Barcelona's in there, the IMAX movie theater. There's stores, it's a mall, it's restaurants. It's nice. You know, it's having the water around you, all the sailboats, all the yachts. It's very, water and experience. Hi.
Yeah.
Thank you. That and then yo.
The shopping area, water.
Yeah? Mare Magnum. Yeah.
Okay, right. They were advertising Lady Gaga.
They were advertising Lady Gaga? Well, maybe last week. Or maybe again, David. You say she was singing last week? She sang last Tuesday, so maybe she's going to have another concert.
3 concerts.
3 concerts?
Yeah, 3 nights. We were there on the 29th, I think she had another.
Qué mal está. No me digas. Pretty compared to the other one. Well, here's the intersection of Passeig de Gracia with Diagonal. And if you look to your left, you'll see a lovely palace. That was a doctor called Dr. Roberts. That's Dr. Roberts.
11,000 people.
Look through the door there. See the garden? One of the few families that had their own garden inside the city. You can still go there. Nice lovely garden. And we are on our way to Park Güell. Güell. I know it's difficult to say, but the same way you say day, you can say Güell. Because the double L is always a Y sound, and it's unusual for anybody that speaks Spanish to pronounce a word that ends in a double L. That doesn't happen in Spanish. It's just Catalan that has many words that finish in consonants. You know how Spanish always ends either with an A or a no or an E. It's always a vowel. There's always a gender to every word. Catalan has all of the masculine words with ending in consonant. So if I say boy in Spanish, you would say niño, right? Niño and niña. And in Catalan, it's nena and nen. Nen. Dog, female, perra, perro. Gosa, gos. Again, you're missing the vowel. So that's why we can still pronounce güey and not have any trouble, which in Spanish would be unusual. Apparently it's one of the most mispronounced words in Barcelona. I've heard it being called ghoul. Park ghoul. Yeah. There you are, Lluís. That's the Catalan way of saying Luis. Lluís. The Y that we have in Spanish, like if I'm going to say my grandma, my yaya, and in Catalan it's always an I. I-A-I-A. Yaya. And E, the conjunction that links words. This and that, in Spanish is a Y, in Catalan it's an I. Joan E. Maria, with an I. Okay, here's a very interesting building, folks. If you have a window on the right-hand side, you'll see this marvelous palace that should be in somewhere like Austria. It's not in the middle of Barcelona, but here it is. They could do these things, these families, because they had the fortunes to do them, and back then they were all drawing attention to themselves because they were new rich. So you wanted to show yourself. These are three sisters. Three sisters that wanted to be close to each other, but not in the same apartment building. They each one of them wanted their own apartment building. And so that's what it is. It's a palace-looking building that really contains three independent apartment buildings. Now we're back to the Eixample. This is the heart of the Eixample. This is the typical neighborhood of the Eixample, of the new city, right, surrounding the old city. And there you are. The intersections are all octagonal. Every one of these streets used to have 4 lanes, like this one. But so many of them now are losing their lanes to parking space and to bike lanes. Barcelona's City Hall is slowly transforming Barcelona into a bicycle city. At least that's what they're aiming for. Yes, ma'am. Exactly like that. So these comfortable 4-lane streets are slowly disappearing. Another one of these boulevards, very long streets with lots of playgrounds for kids, parks. Remember, they're really important for the neighborhoods because children do go to the playground right after school. School's out at 5, especially for the elementary students, and you don't want to take a child that is full of energy home, especially when you live in 800 square feet. So playgrounds are essential. Let them run off their energy, you know what I mean? Before you take them home. So it's very common that after 5 o'clock, all moms and dads and grandmas bring their kids to the park. Up we go, up we go, up we go, to the top, to this mountain called the Bald Mountain back then in the 1900s, because there was practically no vegetation on that hill. Well, that's where Mr. Wade decided that he would organize or found or start his gated community. And it was going to be a garden city, so the first thing was going to transform it into a very green, lush area. You'll see it is. And, well, there's 42 acres of land that form part of Park Way, and it was going to be a gated community for the richer families that Mr. Wade thought would enjoy living in a natural environment. But he was wrong. New rich want social recognition, not hiding behind a wall where no one could see how rich they are. So they wanted to live in Passeig de Gràcia, not in Park Way. So whatever Mr. Wade invested in creating what we're going to enjoy today didn't bring him report any benefit. Gaudi plotted 42 acres and came up with 60 plots. So they were expecting a lot of people to live there. And in the end, only 3 families live there. And not only 3 families live there, it's what 3 families, because 2 of those families were the owner and the architect. So it was really bad in the sense that it didn't make Mr. Guay any money until, of course, they sold the park to the City Hall and they got their investment back. For sure, because at a time when everybody, well, the peseta was really low, and each of the plots was selling for 25,000 pesetas, the Guay family sold the park for $3.5 million, or actually 3,250 million, because they got a little discount. City Hall said that they had to do some restoration work, so they got a discount. But the selling price was 3.5 million. So yeah, I think they got their money back. And they turned it into a public park just so that Gaudi's designs wouldn't be lost. So you can see that nobody understood Gaudi, but at least they know that he was a very good architect, someone important. And they saved the park for us to enjoy. So we're going to see the walkways that Gaudi designed for these families to be able to enjoy the natural environment without really being bothered by the weather. So, you know, they could walk out in the summertime, even if it was really, really warm. They would always be cooler inside those walkways because they're cave-like, or in the wintertime. But even if it rained, they wouldn't get wet. Then there's the market hall, there's the main square, the model home that Gaudi bought. He lived in it for 20 years. And not even designed by him. I mean, it's, I don't know, I think that in the English language there's got to be an adagio that says something like, at the blacksmith's table everybody eats with wooden spoons. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That the blacksmith doesn't have time to make metal forks and spoons and knives for his family. They're all eating with wooden cutlery. So there's got to be something similar about architects or others. Because Gaudi was living in a house that he didn't design. That he would never have designed the way it is. It was designed by one of the youngest architects that worked for him, Mr. Berenguer. And the other one was the owner who lived, well, he had Gaudi enlarge a house that was there already, and so Gaudi had to add buildings to it because Mr. and Mrs. Guay had 11 children. They needed a pretty large-sized house for everybody because not only was it going to be mom, dad, and the 11 kids, it was also going to be the cook and the butler and the chauffeur and all the other help. So, more or less, 17 people would have had to live there. Well, as soon as the City Hall bought the park, that house became a public school. That's what it still is. It's a public school for the children of the neighborhood. And then the only other person that bought a plot, or actually a double plot, was Mr. Trias. Mr. Trias was a lawyer, friend of the owners. And he's the only person that really, you could say, paid market price for the land and the house. He bought a double plot, Mr. Trias, and they lived in that house for a long time, until the children married, moved out, parents died, and then the kids closed the building, and that's it. It's been there all these years closed. Off and on, I've seen someone come in and ventilate, but mostly it's just closed. So now the City Hall is going to buy it. They're going to be forcing it with eminent domain. Composite liquid material that you would throw into a mold and wait for it to harden. So it was never meant to stand more than 3 months because it would have cracked and broken. But then people said, it's so pretty, what a shame. 10 years restoration. 10 years to have it standing today. Wow. the right-hand side and the shipyard built in the 14th century. Now, this is the stone that makes Barcelona. See? This is our sandstone from the quarries of Montjuic. Everything that's important in Barcelona was done. Look, this is the medieval wall. Again, the same stone from the quarries, the King's Quarry. There it is, still standing, with its towers, its defensive towers. And there's the moat. And one of the doors, see, check that out. One of the 11 doors, Barcelona had 11 doors to access the city inside. Depending on where you came from, you would access by one or another. But for sure, if it was sunset, that was it. They would be closed. You'd have to sleep outside.
That was the last of the wall.
Yeah, that's the only bit of wall and door that's left. Because it forms part of the shipyard, they can't demolish it. Santa Madrona.
Yeah, maybe.
Did you? Well, I got the closest, so I didn't get the whole thing. That's good.
Okay, that's as far as the moat goes.
So what happened to the rest of the historical wall?
Oh, my dear, we demolished it in 1854, 1860. Between 1854 and 1860, finally, Nancy, finally we got rid of the wall. Can you imagine having a medieval wall constraining your growth between the 14th century and the 19th century? Nobody, no other city in Europe left its medieval wall standing that long. It was counter logic. It was against development and growth. We were forced to leave them standing. That's why they were standing at that, late moment. So finally, in 1854, when citizens got sick and tired of living in such bad circumstances and conditions, they decided to stop demolishing the wall with their all bare hands. And once that happened, Madrid couldn't stop them. So they gave us permission to demolish them finally, and that's when all of the city grew. See, that's when we built the Art Nouveau architecture and the beautiful buildings and all of the grid pattern design, urban design, and all of that happened in just a few years. It was necessary. It had to be done. How can you have an industrial revolution in 2.5 square miles? Come on. Yes, it was necessary. 19th century. Most everybody had demolished. You know, the moment we start having gunpowder in warfare, the moment you start having guns and rifles and you're shooting at targets, it's no longer bows and arrows. Well, that's when everybody had demolished their walls. 18th century, 17th century. And we had to wait till the 19th century, late 19th. Yeah, so it was something very necessary. We all welcomed that. So these would be walls, we'd still have walls here on the right-hand side. We have streets called rounds of St. Peter's, rounds of St. Anthony's. You know why that is? Because of the rounds the soldiers used to do on the walls. So we can still remember that these were we're on the rounds of St. Anthony, right, David? Rounds of St. Anthony's. There you are. So this would be the walls on the right-hand side. All around.
Fortunate in one regard, the roads are built dramatically wider than, say, over in Italy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yes, definitely.
So,
were you aware that right next to the walls you always had a big road, because that's the road everybody would walk on, and you always had awnings hanging from the walls, people were selling in their stands?
Sure.
So this was always larger than the usual roads, the road next to the walls, even in Roman times? Because all the public would walk along the roads.
Bizarre.
That's right. Looking for the way in,
Right.
So yeah, this was the Ramblas. The width of the Ramblas, similar to this one, was also the road next to the walls. guy in the past. It was Mr. Servat, and Mr. Servat was both an engineer and a hygienist, in the sense that he had studied scientifically what human need is to have quality of life. So he created a whole area around the city. This is the market of St. Anthony's, for example, because we're on the rounds of St. Anthony, right? This is St. Anthony's market. This is the local market, one of the 54 I was telling you about. So yeah, we were lucky with Mr. Servat. We got lucky. Look at the corners, folks. When you're in an area that has no tips on the corners, you're in the Eixample. The Eixample was the name given to the neighborhood that was added behind the walls, once the walls were demolished. Eixample translates as enlargement or widening. And one of the main characteristics of that hygienist is, or Mr. Servat, let's just call him Mr. Servat. One of his really nice details was the cutting off of the corners so that the delivery vans and trucks could park on the corners and not stop traffic. So all delivery vans and trucks have the corners as free parking space, Monday to Friday, 8 in the morning to 8 p.m. in the afternoon. And it's so helpful. The bins. This is because most of us bring our garbage down. I mean, if you're in the high-end part of the city, you're going to have a maid or a help or even the receptionist or the doorman to come and pick up your garbage. But most families bring down their own garbage, usually twice a week at least. And therefore, we have the same bins that you have on the streets in the kitchen, for example, right? So the blue one is for paper, and the yellow one is for plastics and tin and metal. And then the green one is for glass. The brown one is for kitchen leftovers. And the gray one is for landfill, I grant you. So they're everywhere. Those 5 bins are everywhere. Now we're going, David is taking us to Plaza de Catalunya so you can see the main area of Barcelona. We saw Columbus where the Ramblas begin, and now you're going to see where the Ramblas end, and that's 1 mile of distance between the water and the main square. At the same time, after seeing Plaza de Catalunya, we're going up Passeig de Gràcia, where the best of the art or modernist houses are. I have to say modernism because I would say Art Nouveau, but in Barcelona it wasn't called Art Nouveau, it was called modernism. And so that's the typical Barcelona style, the modernist style. So we're going to see Casa Batlló and Casa Milà on our way up to Parkway. You'll see how different Gaudí is from all the other architects, because in that one block where we have Casa Batlló, there's 3 of the best architects that did an apartment building on that same square. So you'll see how it evolved from being very classical and being romantic and not risking anything to being very dynamic and youthful and full of color and having different materials on the facade. And then Gaudí breaking all the rules, not decorating anything, not using any of those elements, but transforming the whole building into a work of art. That's the big difference. Okay, this is a little mall here. It's called the Triangle. The walls would be here on the right-hand side. Again, you can see how wide the street is. There's a lot of work going on. The Ramblas are right now suffering a huge transformation. They're incredibly uncomfortable right now. So much work is going on. There's so many holes and noise, and it's not the best moment for the Ramblas, definitely. Look at all this material here on the right.
so much
good,
better today.
yeah. Yesterday was miserable. I mean, I was okay. You were miserable, which made me miserable.
Okay, this is our main square. On the right, on the left-hand side is Plaza de Catalunya. We just passed the Ramblas, all of that area on the right.
This is our...
There you are. Yeah.
Yeah. So where are you guys staying?
Hotel Jazz.
Yes, that's one of the ones that we looked at when I was narrowing down where to stay. We were
It's
at
really very conveniently
H10
located.
Cubic.
It's a nice hotel.
It's very nice.
H10 Cubic is very nice too.
Oh, H10.
Yeah.
Is that where you're staying? Yeah, we saw
At the rooftop terrace.
Yeah, we have a rooftop.
Those are so nice. We've seen both of the cathedrals from up there.
Oh, okay.
Then I watched another one that was made later and said, oh, they discontinued that one. We got a complimentary bottle of water each. But then last night, that's every day they're going to bring us fresh water. But last night they delivered us a bottle of cava and appetizer. It was like a chocolate petit four, or a big chocolate petit four. It was a sharp. What is that? Heart shape? No, it was round. And then walnuts and strawberries and some marshmallowy things. But it was. We were too tired. I mean, we were in the bed when they knocked on the door.
He came in, he says, and I got up there, who's that? And he goes, can I come in? I said, yeah, just a minute, I got up.
So we got up like 2 o'clock and said, okay, I guess we can have our appetizer. When was it? At
About 10.
Okay, 10 o'clock. But we still didn't want the kava, so I'll let you know. Please put the kava on ice. We'll drink some tonight. After I had another one of those sangrias, it was delicious. So good.
We're going to be going past the two apartments. The first one will be over on our side.
There's your water show.
Oh, what is it? I don't see a water show. I can't see anything.
It'll be fun. When he goes look around the
We saw a water show in Gatlinburg at the island. That's Pigeon Forge. We saw a water show in France. We see a water show.
Los Kurds se quedan en Sagama.
But we will. Cado?
H10 Moncada.
Yes.
And that's at the bottom of Villa Laietana?
22,
Yeah.
24.
More or less
24.
towards the bottom?
24 Laietana.
24, right? Yeah, okay. We'll have to probably talk about that later.
Okay.
No worries. Okay, folks, we're on Passeig de Gracia. This is the boulevard, call it, or main street that all these rich industrialists from the 19th century wanted to live on. This was the street that gave them the maximum visibility. Bear in mind that they were mostly new rich, all right? They had made fortunes thanks to the colonies. We lost the colonies. They came back to Barcelona with a lot of money in their pockets, and they were ready to invest in real estate. And of course, that's what they did, and it turned out to be a great business. This is one of those buildings there on the left-hand side on the corner I wanted to show you, is Casa Gio Morera by Domenico Montaner, one of the most popular architects of his time. We're talking 1906 there. Very classical. Look at this is so obviously downtown. Look at this. Something's going on. There's something going on. I'm not sure, but that looks like the police, folks.
Definitely got a crowd.
Yep, they sure do. Something's going on, and I don't know exactly what it is because there's a bus here, and something's going on at the hotel, the Mandarin, maybe.
maybe the singer for tonight's event.
Huh.
That's why.
Looks like he's saying.
Maybe this is where all the concert people are staying, or whoever, you know what I mean?
Oh, I see. Famous people. Okay. So it's not that anything's going on except famous people. Okay.
They always get in the way.
Okay. Famous popular musicians that young people want to see, or whoever. Okay, well, let's not be distracted by whatever it is that's happening over there. We've got Casa Morena here. This is the type of architecture that families loved back then. This was considered elegant and beautiful. So in 1906, this particular building got the prize to the most artistic house of the year. Now, it's pretty. I'm not going to say it isn't. Let's move on, David, please, and see the other one. The one coming next is Casa Amadier by Puchica de Falp, the one that did the monastery in Montserrat. And you can see how dynamic it is compared to the other one. It's got color, it's got different materials. And next to it you have Gaudí. You can compare there.
Yeah.
You see? You can compare. Even the youngest of the architects of the time couldn't imitate Gaudí. Gaudí was completely different from everybody else. That's Casa Batlló. Now you're talking 7,500 square feet per story. That's the whole area that the Batlló family lived on. And then they rented 2 apartments per story on top of their own. So you've got the 2nd floor, the 3rd floor, the 4th floor, and the 5th floor. It looks like a story, because it is telling a story. At least we think so. I think we all think it's telling the story of St. George killing the dragon. Look at the top. Can you see the top on how the ceiling looks like the scales on a dragon?
Oh, yeah.
Look at how the chimney looks like the hilt of a sword killing it. Yep. You see that?
Yep.
Oh, thank you, David. Folks, look to your right. There's the bus with a perfect image of what I was telling you about. If you look at the balconies, that's like the hollow of the eyes in the skull.
Oh, yeah.
Or if you look at the columns down below, that's the femurs. So what it is the dragon spits out the bones of the people it eats.
Oh, how funny.
And that's why it has to be killed. Because it's eating up people randomly. And eventually, up on top, there's a rosebud. And that's because, according to Catalan lore, when the dragon was slain by St. George, the first drop of blood that fell to the ground made a rose grow. And that's what St. George plucks to give to the princess whose life he's saving. So you can see why, it's a pretty story. So there you go. That's what we think is. Here it is. Here's the dragon scales. There's the sword.
Hey, take a picture of that box for me. No, it's fine.
And even a little further up, you can see the blue of the interior of Casa Batlló. Gaudí is imitating marine life, underwater marine life. One of the 2 apartment buildings by Gaudí, I would visit Casa Milà. I think Casa Milà is so much more important than Casa Batlló. This one here on your right-hand side, folks. Yeah, it's on the corner. It's enormous. It's 11,000 square feet per story. Look at that. It's fabulous, folks. You visit the 4th floor, where they furnished it with period furniture. You visit the 5th floor, where they have the washing rooms, and now it's the best museum about Gaudí. And you visit the rooftop, with all of the beautiful sculptures that hide the stairwells, the chimneys, the cisterns, and all of that. Look at it. Can you see why nobody would like it? Everybody else is decorating facades, and here's Gaudí with his bare walls. Nobody could understand it. It was beyond them.
One more.
Beyond them. Totally beyond them. Nobody could understand Gaudí.
All right, Nancy, if you got this one, can you get up higher?
Okay, I hope I got a tree.
Yeah, Barcelona doesn't have a lot of trees, that's true.
mailbox. Defensa.
Total, que eso fuera.
Oye, Mariola, ¿qué tal?
Stanko Cathedral.
Interessi qua, c'è una prima donna. Poi quello posso.
Nobody.
Guess what?
Oh.
Very nice.
You're still here.
Yes, I am.
We missed you yesterday.
For a while.
We don't move.
Sir.